Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so text 20. Prakritim Purusham Jeva Vidhi Anhadi Ubhavapi Vikaram Cha Gunham Jeva Vidhi Prakriti Sambhavahan.
Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the mode of matter are products of material nature.
Text 21. Karaya Karhana Katvatve Het U Prakriti Uchate Purusha Sukha Dukhanam Bhokritve Hetu Uchate.
Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas a living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world.
Okay. Text 22. Purusha Prakriti Sto Hi Bhunkate Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sankho Saya Sad Asad Yoni Janmashu.
The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species.
Upadrashtan Umanta Chabalta Bhokta Maheshvaraha Parama Matmeti Chapi Ukto Dehesmin Purusha Paraha.
Yet in this body there is another, the transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the Supersoul.
Okay, text 24. Ya evam veti purusham prakritim cha gune saha savatha vata manopi nasapuyo vijayate.
One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and the interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position.
Text 25. Dayan eta atmani pashyanti kechid atmanam atmana anye sankhayena yogena kama yogena chapare.
Some perceive the Supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires.
Text 26. Anyetav evam ajan anta shru yavem bahya upashate te pichetan rati eva mrityum shruti para yanaha.
Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death.
Text 20. Yeah, text 27. Yavad sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam keshcha jana samyogat tad vidhi bharata shabaha.
O Chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and the non-moving, is only the combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field.
Text 28. Samam saveshu bhuteshu Tishtatam Parameshvaram Vinashyatsva Avinashyantam Yah Pashyati Sapashyati.
One who sees the supersoul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies and who understands that neither the soul nor the supersoul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees.
Text 29. Samam Pashyan hi savatra samavashritam ishvaram nahinashti atmanatmanam tato yati param gatim.
One who sees the supersoul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination.
Text 30. Prakrityeva chakamani kriyamanani savasha ya pashati tat atmanam akataram sapashyati.
One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees.
Text 31. Yada bhuta prithag bhavam ekasham anupashyati tata eva chavishtaram rama sampadyate tada.
When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception.
Text 32. Anavid vidvan nigunadvat paramatmayam avyaha sharivashto pikunteya nakaroti nalipyate.
Those with the visions of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled.
Text 33. Yatha savagatam shaukashmaihad akasham no paripayate savat vavashthito dehe datha ma no pariyate.
The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body.
Text 34. Yatha prakyashanti ekha krishnam lokam imam ravi geshtram geshtri tatha krishnam prakyashati bharata.
O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does a living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness.
Text 35. Keshtra janayo evam antaram jana chakshusa bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye vidu yanti te param.
Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Luke Prabhu and Leela Vilasini Mataji. So now we shall go to our presentation. So we continue reading chapter 13, entitled nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. And today we shall read text number 25 and discuss it in more detail. So text number 25. Oh, sorry, before I read, let's say the Mangala Charanam prayers first. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine. So, Dhyanen Natmani Pasyanti Kechid Atmanam Atmana Anyesh Sankhena Yogena Karma Yogena Chapare. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, or maybe we'll do the word for word first. It's interesting to know the words. Dhyanena by meditation. Atmani within the self. Pashyanti see. Kechit some. Atmanam the super soul. Atmana by the mind. Anye others. Sankhena of philosophical discussion. Yogena by the yoga system. Karma yogena by activities without fruitive desire. Cha also apare others. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Some perceive the supersoul within themselves through meditation. Others through the cultivation of knowledge. And still others through working without fruitive desires. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord informs Arjuna that the conditioned souls can be divided into two classes as far as man's search for self-realization is concerned. Those who are atheists, agnostics, and skeptics are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. But there are others who are faithful in their understanding of spiritual life, and they are called introspective devotees, philosophers, and workers who have renounced fruitive results. Those who always try to establish the doctrine of monism are also counted among the atheists and agnostics. In other words, only the devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are best situated in spiritual understanding because they understand that beyond this material nature are the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is expanded as the Paramatma, the Supersoul in everyone, the all-pervading Godhead. Of course, there are those who try to understand Supreme Absolute Truth by cultivation of knowledge, and they can be counted in the class of the faithful. The Sankhya philosophers analyze this material world into 24 elements, and they place the individual soul as the 25th element. When they are able to understand the nature of the individual soul to be transcendental to the material elements, they are able to understand also that above the individual soul, there is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the 26th element. Thus, gradually, they also come to the standard of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Those who work without fruitive results are also perfect in their attitude. They are given a chance to advance to the platform of devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Here it is stated that there are some people who are pure in consciousness and who try to find the supersoul by meditation. And when they discover the supersoul within themselves, they become transcendently situated. Similarly, there are others who also try to understand the Supreme Soul by cultivation of knowledge. And there are others who cultivate the Hatha Yoga system and who try to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by childish activities. Hare Krishna, wonderful purport. So the verse again, some perceive the supersoul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. So in the previous verse, we have read that what is the result of those who understand what is material nature, what is that means the field of activities, who is the soul and the super soul, and how the material modes of nature function. Those people certainly attain liberation. That's what we discussed yesterday. So in this verse, Krishna is focusing on those people who are able to perceive the supersoul within themselves. To come to this stage of perceiving the supersoul within themselves, it is a very advanced spiritual state. And Krishna is saying that one can come to this advanced stage. In this particular verse, Krishna mentions three aspects. One may wonder, why is Krishna not mentioning bhakti here? Because bhakti seems to be the essence and the final message of the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, bhakti is so important that Krishna mentions it separately in the next verse 26. So in this verse, Krishna is speaking about dhyana, which means by meditation. Then sankhya, of philosophical discussion of the yoga system. And lastly, karma yogena. So these three processes are being described here. Meditation, sankhya, which is cultivation of knowledge, and karma yoga. And it is interesting, it is mentioned here, sankhyena yogena, karma yogena. So yoga means to link. The English word yoke, when you attach the yoke to the bull, it comes from this word yoga. So yoga means to link. So any process that doesn't finally link one to Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's simply known by that system, either dhyana, sankhya, or karma. It becomes sankhyena yoga or karma yoga when it actually results in the linking process. So these processes of karma, sankhya, dhyana, they enable one to come to the stage of linking. So you can imagine there is the plow, the yoke, and then there's the bull. They are not connected. The process only becomes complete and effective in terms of the plowing process when they are linked. When the linkage is not there, then it's almost fruitless. So dhyana is the preparation process. Sankhya is the preparation process. Karma is the preparation process. And we'll talk a bit more about that in detail. And obviously tomorrow, as I mentioned, we will discuss the bhakti part more clearly. Just before I go into that, it's very interesting how Srila Prabhupada writes the last sentence of his purport. He says, similarly, there are others who try to understand the super soul by cultivation of knowledge. And there are others who cultivate the Hatha Yoga system and who try to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by childish activities. Any of you could make sense of what Prabhupada means by that? By childish activities. Why would Srila Prabhupada use that word childish activities? Those who have read and studied this purport, have any of you got any particular views?
Prabhuji, the Hatha Yoga is like exercise. So that's
Mhm.
why calling it childish, because it's like exercising. So like yoga in today's terms is like exercise. They are calling them that yoga.
Very good, Rupa Mataji. That's exactly what I thought. Like a
Thank
child just plays, runs around, jumps about, does those acrobatics and just plays. That is just childish activities. It's just like frivolous. Sometimes they call it frivolous play. Just playing, having a good time. So the Hatha Yoga system, all these yoga system, we have these yoga studios. They come together, they put the yoga mats and they do all the asanas and sometimes some pranayams. But if they don't connect it, if they don't connect to the Supreme Personality of God, it is just like childish activity, just frivolous play, just gymnastics, just movements. Anything that does not connect one to the Supreme Personality of God, according to the Vedic literatures, Shrava eva kevalam, simply a waste of time. And Prabhupada paraphrases it here by says it, childish activities. Before I go on, did anyone have any other understanding or wanted to say what Prabhupada meant by childish?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Padika Mataji.
Hare Krishna. What I understand by this yoga process is not. I mean, their thought is as if they're going to connect it to the super soul within the heart, but with the process they use, it's not really linking to the Supreme Soul. So their endeavor is not going to make any connection to the actually Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So that's not really the effective process to be connected.
Yes.
That's what I understand.
Yes, Mataji, that's correct. That's my understanding too. Thank you for sharing that. So now let's just delve a bit deeper into this verse. So the theme is, yes, one can achieve the understanding of the super soul through dhyana, sankhya, and karma, which we've spoken about. Now, just some highlights of the purport before we go into the detail of these different yoga processes. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains that there are two classes of conditioned souls. Those who are faithful in spiritual life and those who are atheists, agnostics, and skeptics. And in the category of the faithful, Prabhupada gives the introspective devotees, philosophers, and the workers who have renounced fruitive results. So these are the three types of people described in the verse. And then Prabhupada says you get other types of people, and these people are beyond the sense of spiritual understanding. The atheists who flatly deny that there is a God. The agnostics, maybe not. And then the skeptics, they're just skeptical about there even being a God. And there are a lot of people in this category. And actually, with time and the new atheist movements, the movement that's propagated by the likes of Dawkins and the Hitchens, Christopher Hitchens, and other famous atheists. They have really tried to propagate and, what's Dawkins' first name? I forgot now.
Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. Yeah, Richard Dawkins. Yeah, he wrote this book, The God Delusion, which is a famous bestseller. Bestseller means it's very, very popular. He wrote this book, The God Delusion, and many people actually believed what he had to say without really, giving any deep insights into analysis into what he was saying. And then you get the other class, the people who are faithful in spiritual realization. Interestingly, Srila Prabhupada writes that those who establish the doctrine of monism, they also fall within the category of atheists. So who can tell me in a short sentence what is the doctrine of monism? Who would like to explain to me what is the doctrine of monism?
Is it like Buddhism?
Yeah, Buddhism is slightly different. They are the voidists. Everything becomes void. The monists, where we've been describing. Yes.
Is it
mental whole, that the mind is all?
The mind is
it's
all.
For the substance in mental?
Uh-huh. Palika
All
Mataji?
that
Yes, sorry.
What I wanted to say is it the impersonal aspect of Krishna, not the Brahman realization, is it? No.
It's these are the doctrines of monism that Prabhupada has been smashing through all of the chapters we've been going through. The doctrine of monism means we are all one.
Yeah.
There is just one big consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
And the ultimate aim is we become part of that one big consciousness.
Yeah, part of the one. Yeah.
We become God. Essentially, it is we are God.
Yes.
We've forgotten we are God.
Yeah.
And when we become perfect, we become God again.
Yeah. In Bhagavatam, one of the verses also say that these people think when they're designated that they're not in the stage of, but when they become designation free, they think they just become God.
Yeah, they become.
That's what
God.
I read in one of the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam 6th Canto.
Yeah, that's true. This is what Prabhupada again and again and again and again in his purports called the Mayavadis.
Yes, yes.
Right. And dear devotees, I'm sad to say that a large part of the Hindus fall in this category.
Yes.
The monists. You read many of the big Swamis books. I don't want to mention names, but practically a lot of these Hindu philosophers, the big names in Hindu philosophy, they actually follow the doctrine of monism. And according to Bhagavad Gita, according to the Vaishnav understanding, they fall within this category. They get grouped with the atheists, agnostics, and skeptics. And why should we follow anyone that's putting us in that category? We want to be in the category of faithful and spiritual life. If anyone thinks we are being strong and we're being unfair, we can have a sit down, we can pick up any of their books, we can go through it, and it is as clear as daylight what their intentions are. And Srila Prabhupada says they fall in this category. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Mayavadi, Aparadi. They are offenders.
Mm.
So always be conscious of this. Always be conscious. Any book you pick up, sometimes, those of us that may have not, been fully convinced yet of the Gaudiya Vaishnava teachings or the writings of Srila Prabhupada, sometimes we may have the tendency to want to read other books or hear other gurus.
What I understand now, Prabhu, that Mayavadi, they take their guru as God, because previously I was follower of Ramakrishna Mission. I didn't know at that time anything, because I just wanted a spiritual life. And at the end, when I met Shivaram Swami first, and I mentioned how can I advance myself to Krishna, he said chant 16 rounds. And I mentioned it to him that I was initiated in Ramakrishna Mission. So Maharaj then said, yes, I heard, yes, in Bengal, there is a lot of influence, but you have to raise yourself above the social structure. That was my first instruction from my guru. I did not know anything, and I could not even understand what he really meant, because I had no understanding about anything about God. I just wanted some spiritual life. And, so I was given, so, but they take the guru. I mean, Ramakrishna, I imagine Ramakrishna as my God. I did not know, nobody explained this before. So this is how I was completely confused and didn't know anything. Only by reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, I came to know about Krishna. Before I didn't know.
That's very interesting, Palika Mataji. Thank you for sharing your life's experience.
Thank you.
Actually, the Mayavadi philosophy is the guru is only like a stepping stone for you. Once the guru has served his purpose, you become equal to the guru. Because obviously, if the guru is God and you are God, it's just that you've not realized your position of God. But as soon as you've realized your position of God, then you become equal to God, because both of you are God.
Yeah.
So that's the fallacy. Whereas the Vaishnava philosophy is that the relationship between the guru and the disciple is eternal. It's eternal. Yeah. So that's very interesting, those two classes.
Only thing is, one thing I would mention, because my initiated guru in Ramakrishna Mission, because I was in here when he left his body. I was in this country. I didn't know he left his body, but in my dream, he came and he was sitting in a lotus. That was my darshan of him. And I didn't know he left his body. My mother wrote me a letter that your spiritual master, on that day, he left his body and he came into my dream. So that was something, I remember.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Very interesting. So the next part of the Purple Prabhupada said, the devotees of the Lord are the best situated in spiritual understanding. Why? Because they know that beyond the material nature is the spiritual world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who expands as Paramatma. So Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he expands himself as Paramatma within the material world. Now the next, the Sankhya philosophers are also in the class of the faithful. Now, Sankhya means, literally the translation of Sankhya is to count. So the Sankhya philosophy is the analytical study of the material world. And Prabhupada says here, the 24 elements. And through the analytical study of the 24 elements, one will gradually come to realize the soul as transcendental to material elements. And one realizes then the super soul as the 26th element. And then one comes to devotional service in Krishna consciousness. So that's another method. Now, can someone likes to tell me how simply by counting one can come to the point of first the soul and then the super soul? Anyone's got any ideas?
I mean, Shankha philosophy was done by Kapila Dev,
Yes.
Devahuti's son. So he did the Shankar philosophy through the analytical study, but then it was connected to Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. But I can't get the connection. If you could explain, please.
Okay, we'll explain a bit better.
Thanks.
And then lastly, it is said here, renounced workers, also in the category of faithful, are perfect in the attitude. Now, how is it? Simply by renouncing attachment to work and the fruits of the work. One, as Prabhupada writes here, gets the chance to progress in Krishna consciousness. How does that work? How does that work? Anyone would like to say?
Because everything is belong to Krishna, so they realize that what they are working at, it's not me. It's for the higher purpose. I'm working for a supreme. Maybe that way. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, so we shall discuss this a bit because it's interesting to understand this. Because Krishna is saying something quite profound here. Through yoga, through Sankhya, through karma yoga, they get to understand the super soul. To understand how that process works is quite interesting, because it's interesting also because you see in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, this is discussed in detail, where Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila, she actually asked Lord Kapila these questions. Please. That's actually why Lord Kapila spoke Sankhya philosophy, because Devahuti, his mother, was asking him, "Please explain this to me." The process of Astanga, which he explained, the process of Sankhya. And so one may ask, why was Devahuti, his mother, so interested in this? And Prabhupada comments in his purports that Devahuti was asking her son Kapila this because she felt by understanding these processes, it'll give her a better appreciation for what is bhakti. So therefore we see in the third canto, to chapters, I think it's 24 to 30. Lord Kapila, Lord Devahuti's mother asks him this question, and then he expands, and eventually they come to devotional service. And his responses and his explanations are all being prompted by his mother's questions. Those of you who haven't read, I've got Srimad Bhagavatam, haven't read the third canto, it'll be interesting to read that. It's interesting. So we see in the third canto, Lord Kapila, he explains the whole process of the Sankhya Yoga. That's through chapters 26 to 27. And that chapter it is called, Dhyana Yoga. First Dhyana Yoga and then Sankhya Yoga. That chapter is called the Lord in the Heart. The Lord in the Heart. And it's very interesting how Lord Kapila explains all of these different processes to his mother. No, sorry, I'm getting a bit confused now. This is not the third canto, this is the second canto. Forgive me. In the second canto, we see the first appearance of Shukadev Goswami. And Shukadev Goswami is asked by Parikshit Maharaj, what is the duty of one who is about to die? And first, he explains the process of Dhyana Yoga, or also known as the Astanga Yoga process. And he basically explains the whole process of Yam, Niyam, Asana, Pratyahara, and so on. And then eventually he says the perfected yogi comes to the point of realizing the super soul within the heart. And in those verses, he describes what does one see, observe in the super soul. So this is a description of the super soul. And he says, others conceive of the Supreme Personality of Godhead residing within the body in the region of the heart and measuring only 8 inches with 4 hands carrying a lotus, a wheel of a chariot, a conch shell, and a club, respectively. So when one sees the Super Soul, this is what one sees. 8 inches high, 4 hands, lotus, wheel of a chariot, conch shell, and club. Then it describes his mouth. His mouth expresses his happiness. His eyes spread like the petals of a lotus, and his garments, yellowish like the saffron of a kadamba flower, are bedecked with valuable jewels. His ornaments are made of gold set with jewels, and he wears a glowing headdress and earrings. His lotus feet are placed over the whorls of the lotus-like hearts of great mystics. On his chest is this Kaustubha jewel engraved with a beautiful calf. And there are the jewels on his shoulders. His complete torso is garlanded with fresh flowers. He is well decorated with the ornamental wreath upon his waist and rings studded with valuable jewels on his fingers. His leglets, his bangles, his oiled hair, his curling with bluish tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing. The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glances of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on the transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation. So this is what the yogis see. After lengthy process of the Ashtanga Yoga's process, this is what they see. They see the Lord within the heart. And in the 27th chapter, 27th or is it 28th, there's also lengthy description, further description about this on the 28th chapter. The description of the Lord. And there it is described in text 34, chapter 28, text number 34. By this meditation, meaning by meditating on the Super Soul, one gradually develops love for the Lord, exhibiting symptoms like the hair standing on end and tears rolling. Gradually, he withdraws his hood-like mind from all material activity. One of our Vaishnava Acharya, Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, mentions that an unfortunate yogi, in spite of developing attraction for the Super Soul, also withdraws his mind from this beautiful form because he's not fixed in his taste. To become fixed in anything, you need taste. If you do not have taste, like we can pick up Bhagavatam every day. If we have taste for Bhagavatam, we can become absorbed in reading and relishing Bhagavatam. But if we haven't got taste for Bhagavatam, we'll think about our phone, we'll think about the TV, we'll think about food to eat, we'll think about so many things. So Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur says, an unfortunate yogi who does not develop taste, he cannot take his mind further. He cannot take his mind further. So the yogi, by meditation, if he's fortunate to develop taste, then his bhakti will develop. Now, very briefly, because of time, these are so lengthy discussions. So how does one develop perception of the Super Soul through Sankhya? Sankhya means to count. So just to give one example, sometimes one may be cooking a nice paratha on the stove. So that is the paratha. Now, if we start looking backwards, how is that paratha made? Flour, oil, water. So you go backwards. So where does the flour come from? It comes from wheat. Where does the wheat come from? It comes from the plant. Where does the plant come from? It comes from the seed. Where does the seed come from? It's in the soil. And in this way, one Sankhya means counting backwards, counting backwards, counting backwards, counting backwards. And if one counts backwards, just like through analysis of this material body, this is my material body. What is this material body made out of? It's made up of organs. What is the organs made up of? It is made up of muscles. What are the muscles made out of it? It's made out of proteins. What is a proteins made out of? Amino acids. Where do the amino acids come from? And in this way, one can analyze the body. Then we can say that consciousness doesn't come from the body. It comes from something else. So if one counts backwards and analyzes, one will eventually come to consciousness. And then one will come from the consciousness comes from the soul. And then where does the soul come from? And eventually one will come to the super soul. So Lord Kapila gives very, very detailed description of this. It's beyond the jurisdiction of the time we have in 3rd Canto, chapters 26 and 27. And he summarizes by saying, therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that super soul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. So through analytical study, one will become detached from the body. Through detachment of the body, one will come to the realization of the soul. Through realization of the soul, one will come to the realization of the super soul. And then that will take one to devotional service and then the ultimate goal. So the same through work, karma yoga. In the 3rd chapter, which is entitled Karma Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in text number 31, those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive activities. So what does that mean? By karma yoga, following Krishna's instructions without envy, one can come to the stage of becoming free from the bondage of material activities. So I am holding this battery pack. Then I will become free from my attachment to the battery pack. Now my hand is empty. An empty hand, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. I've got to hold on to something. So I have got to take to devotional service. I've given up the negative, I've got to take the positive. So just having a free hand is not sufficient. We have to take something positive, which is devotional service. And Krishna says early on in the chapter, text 19 and 20, therefore, without being attached to the fruits of activities, one should act as a matter of duty. For by working without attachment, one attains the supreme. So this is verified by Krishna early on in the Bhagavad Gita. It says, if one works as a matter of duty without attachment, one will should eventually, under proper guidance, become attached to the supreme. And then Krishna gives an example. He says, kings such as Janak attained perfection solely by performance of prescribed duties. Therefore, just for the sake of educating the people in general, you should perform your work. So Krishna gives an example of one we can do it. So all of these different processes are there, and they can all bring us to a certain level of detachment. But unless one grasps bhakti yoga, devotional service, one will stay stuck at a certain level, while one will not advance to the ultimate goal. So I've gone a bit over time. It's a very deep, detailed subject, this verse, but I've just tried to give you the gist of the understanding. You can read much more in the other chapters. You can read more about karma yoga in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. You can read more about dhyana and astanga in the 2nd canto, 1st and 2nd chapter of Bhagavatam, and then more about Sankhya yoga in the 3rd canto, chapters 24, 5, 6, and 7. So I'll stop here. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, or reflections?
Hare Krishna, Vrindavan Chandra Prabhu. Just now you mentioned about Janak Maharaj.
Yes.
He did perfect karma yoga.
Yes.
So was he then that means he was completely detached, whatever he did, the karma yoga. So then he could connect it to Krishna through these activities, to this Nishkam karma yoga.
Yeah, after karma yoga, King Janaka is mentioned as one of the, is it 12 Mahajans?
Yes.
Yes, one of the 12 Mahajans. So one can understand that he became perfect to the stage of detachment through karma yoga, but then eventually he took on devotional service.
So that will lead you to, if you do Nishkam karma yoga, that will lead you to devotional service.
Yes, and how it leads you, it frees you from the bondage of material activity and the material body. Yes, it's a very powerful stepping stone towards bhakti.
Yes. But not everybody can do that.
No, many people stay stuck.
Yeah.
The time they progress beyond that is when they meet a pure devotee. Like Srila Prabhupada, when he was in South Africa, he went to South Africa, I think it was 1975. While he was there, he met Swami Atmananda from the Divine Life Society.
Yeah.
And Swami Atmananda, he was a great soul. He was a great yogi, very detached. And when after Prabhupada met him, Prabhupada told the devotees that this Swami Atmananda, he's been a yogi for many lives.
Okay.
But he's come back again and again because he hasn't taken to devotional service.
Devotional service, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or reflections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Ajay Prabhu.
Is this? I presume this we're following the yoga ladder. After karma law, those people who perform karma, nishkam karma, they presumably won't go straight to bhakti, or they have to go through gnana.
No.
And that's presumed.
No. One can go straight, and that even is explained by Lord Kapila to his mother Devahuti. I'm just trying to see if I can way of mark that. No, one can go from karma yoga straight to bhakti yoga. Just like one can go straight from Sankhya to bhakti, straight from Dhyan to bhakti, one can also go straight from karma to bhakti. One doesn't have to go to Sankhya because the main thing is to become detached, isn't it? Detached from the material body. So different processes are being employed to become detached. And Lord Kapila tells his mother Devahuti in chapter number 27, in text numbers 21 to 23, he explains that eventually one can come to bhakti through any of these processes. So one does not have to go from karma to Sankhya or to Dhyana. One can go from karma straight to bhakti.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But they have to be connected to the devotee, otherwise.
Yes.
Would that be possible? Would that be possible just automatic like that? Would they have to be connected to your
depends.
devotee?
One does not get connected to the devotee by chance. When Krishna sees the candidate's sincerity, Krishna will connect him to a devotee. So Krishna is wanting everyone to advance.
Yeah.
And he sees that, and therefore you see Krishna's use the word free from envy. Very specific, Krishna uses the word free from envy. So when one is free from envy, Krishna says, okay, he's the good candidate for bhakti.
Okay,
he will connect him with the devotee. He'll get the seed and then he'll go to bhakti.
Yes. That's wonderful. That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, it's Sankhya, Prabhuji. It's Sankhya yoga is, what Kapila means, that it overcomes the suffering through cultivating this, of discriminating and releasing the soul, or purusha, as they call it. Is that right?
Yeah. It's very interesting how it uses a very nice analogy. It's like, it said all of us in this material world, we are like living in a dream. We are living in a dream, just like we live in a dream where we're dreaming and we're all caught up in the dream. Everyone in this material world is like living in a dream.
Okay.
So Lord Kapila tells his mother that through Sankhya or dhyana, one becomes freed from the false ego. Uses the specific words, the false ego. And the moment one becomes free from the false ego, he wakes up from his dream.
Illusions, yeah.
Yeah, illusion. He sort of wakes up from the dream. So these processes, essentially, it's almost like waking us up from a dream state. And when we wake up from the dream state, then what do? It's just like you're sleeping and you're performing all activities and you get up. You have to do something. You can't keep on lying there and go back to sleep. You have to take to devotional service. That's how Lord Kapila describes it to his mother Devahuti.
Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions, comments? Does it make sense? I'm just wondering whether it was too analytical, too confusing.
It was very nice.
Very, very nicely explained,
Very nice.
Prabhu.
Prabhu, how can we dovetail envy? Envy is the worst one to dovetail to anything.
Yeah, there's a few recommendations, Mataji. Prabhupada defines envy as the inability to tolerate other people's success.
But we don't care if other people succeed or not. But is that envy when we don't even want to know about their success?
So when you talk about envy, Mataji, what do maybe you can enlighten me a bit, like in your own life, or you okay, look from a third person, how would that envy manifest?
I don't know, because every time I look and I look into it and I think, am I envious? And I think I don't care what they do. So I don't know whether that is envy in itself, because I don't care what they do because it's their life.
It's very subtle, very, very subtle. Prabhupada gives a few interesting perspectives on envy. Prabhupada says to see another living entity suffer in the material world, and to not feel compassion for the living entity.
Yes, that's envy.
Yes,
that's envy. So that's one perspective, right? Another perspective, like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, was once someone told him, "You are the greatest devotee," and Mahaprabhu rejected it.
Yes.
He said, if I was the greatest devotee, I wouldn't even be living in this body, because out of separation for Krishna, I would die. And he said, the fact that I'm still living means I do not have attachment for Krishna. There's still some envy there. So the one way you can see in our own lives, the fact that we are happily going on, yes, Krishna is there, but other things are there. There's still, in another subtle form, there's envy.
Right, which we can't recognize.
Yeah, well, it's there if one really, looks within our heart and once looks at the teachings of the acharyas. It's there, and then also it manifests in different stages. Sometimes, we see other devotees; they are so close to the spiritual master. When we think, why are they so close? Why is Guru giving them so much attention? Or sometimes we see a devotee that's performing the arati so nice and doing so well in their devotional service. We think, why them, not me?
Oh, okay.
So even in devotional service, envy can come in different guises. Envy can come in, and that's all a manifestation of the false ego. It's all
so when somebody's doing something good and you try to copy them, is that envy? Because you want to better yourself.
It depends. It depends what your consciousness, Mataji, is. If you think they are serving Krishna so nicely,
yeah,
let me learn to serve Krishna like that. But if you think, they are on the altar doing pujari service, when will my day come when I can take over that service? That's a different thing. That's a different thing.
No. When somebody's doing well and you think, oh, I better learn something.
Yeah.
How to do it better yourself.
Yeah. Coming back to your original question, if we do detect some envy in ourselves,
yes,
how can we overcome it? Srila Prabhupada gives one nice recommendation.
By serving, I think, by serving that devotee.
Serving the devotee, and also to see, if you see any good quality in a person, you should think that Krishna says in the Gita, everything is a spark of my splendor.
Mm.
That's one way of seeing that quality coming from Krishna. And the second way to overcome envy is to get rid of the scarcity mentality. The scarcity mentality is the mentality that the guru is limited. If the guru becomes affectionate to someone, other disciple, then I'm going to get less of that affection. If Krishna is very favorably disposed and showing a lot of mercy to another devotee, then there's less mercy available to me. That is called a scarcity mentality. No, Guru and Krishna are unlimited.
Yeah.
They can bestow full mercy on that person, and they can bestow full mercy upon you. So there's absolutely no need for us to feel envy, any envy. Envy only arises out of the false ego and a scarcity mentality.
And because the guru knows the capacity he can give you, he knows he knows my capacity.
Sleeping, huh?
Yeah.
Not possible.
So he knows my capacity. So he will give me that sort of
Yes.
limited, and he can give to somebody quite a lot. But that is the capacity that Guru recognizes in us. That's how much he can give us.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And that's how much we can take. Otherwise, we would go mental or we would just leave.
Yeah.
Literally.
Prabhupada said something very interesting I read the other day. So someone who thinks that there is a higher service and there's a lower service has not understood devotional service. Prabhupada says every devotee should think that this service I got, this is the service that Krishna wants from me. And this is the service that Krishna gets the most pleasure from. So we should always, whatever service we got, we should be completely happy and satisfied. And we should think that this is the service that Krishna wants me to do. And it is the services which will give him most pleasure. And then this way we become comfortable with whatever service we got.
And we do it better.
Better, yeah.
Literally. Okay, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Emma Mataji's got a question. Is Krishna in his different incarnation repeating the instruction in Sankhya and Uddhava Gita in the Bhagavatam? Yes, Mataji. It's in one sense, it's the same instruction told but differently. Because as Kapila, Lord Kapila, you can see, because the third canto is not identical to the 11th canto. Although both of them talk about Sankhya, it's told in a different way. And Krishna is so merciful. He gives the same instruction in different ways so that we have better opportunities to grasp it, to understand it.
Yes, Prabhuji. He's repeating it, so we keep on reflecting on it more.
Yes,
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Very well.
Any other questions, comments, or reflections?
I was thinking, Prabhu, with this wonderful discussion, we should have a 2-hour session for this 13th chapter, because in many people's minds, it's the worst chapter because they can't understand anything about it.
Yeah, but as we're reading it, Prabhu, don't you think it's an amazing chapter?
It is.
I agree as well. I think a repeat of it would be very useful.
Yeah,
You've explained it very well, Prabhuji.
Very,
but I think
very
still
nice.
a bit of few gaps that we are a bit confused with still. Definitely.
Yeah,
There's so much information that this is the one that really brings us to the right understanding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I said yesterday, I hadn't understood 13th chapter as much as I have understood now. But there is more deep meaning in this chapter than I have anticipated. So it would be a great idea again to go over it with more depth.
Yeah. And then Mataji, I come back to the point I made. Sometimes people say, oh, karma yoga, I'm not interested. Just fly through chapter 3. Come to nature, they enjoy in consciousness. Chapter 13 is jnana yoga. Let's just fly through it. No, as the Acharya is explaining, when we understand these chapters, firstly, when we meet people on the path of Sankhya, karma, or jnana, we'll be able to explain why bhakti is higher and how we transition. That's first. And secondly, when we understand these chapters, it gives us a better appreciation for bhakti. Therefore, these chapters are so important and so wonderful.
But your understanding of this chapter is so wonderful. That makes us understand, because we need your understanding. That's that's what makes it so connected. It's really wonderful.
Very true. Here,
Mataji, I mean,
true.
The honest situation is that I've also struggled with this in the past, but through prayer, through mercy of Guru, we get some little more understanding.
Yeah, you definitely do.
And
you have
from that
a lot more
we
understanding. It's really wonderful. The way you speak, your voice, and I feel that you have a realized knowledge, and that's why we're very connected.
By your words, I will get realized knowledge, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everyone, for your wonderful questions and participation. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your service. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.